42% of gun owners in America are women. And in the last 2 years, 3.5 million women have bought a gun here in the U.S. And she spent $800 on her gun and $400 on accessories. And we don't have a nice bag for her to go train. Like, I was like, this cannot be true.
Welcome back to the TrustBuilt Podcast. I'm the host, Alan Bennett, and today I've got Windy Elstermeier with me. Welcome back to the show, Windy.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be back.
So we've met before because you were a guest once before.
Yes, right? Yes, absolutely.
And your whole journey, and I'm just fascinated by it. So I didn't get enough the first time. So I wanted you to come back on because I want to know where you've been and how things have progressed, because I know things were changing a lot for you.
Yeah, I feel like even in just the last year and a half, or how long it's been since the last one, there's been a lot of exciting new things that have come to life. Including the event that you came to that I had, where we had the Family Business Forum. And that was an amazing partnership with a lot of different people in the community. It was so much fun, great content.
Yeah. You know, we had a conversation right before we went on live with this podcast, is there's been relationships built out of that event. Steve Toth, who's been a guest on this show, was in that we met at that event. And the conversation that we had was, in order for relationships to build, there has to be a common theme that attracts them to it. And then you have to find content that you resonate with. Right. Kudos to you and Angela and Sammy about doing that.
Yeah. So, of course, part of my go-to is goal setting and time management, because I'm all about how do you get to your goals and how do you make all that fit. And so, that was the content that I delivered there. And it was very well received. Several people were still talking about it this year.
Yeah. So I'm going to dip into this. So you talked about delivering content. You made that presentation, and where you're going with presentations and delivering content, you've got another path you're going now, right?
Yeah. So I went from delivering training or being a facilitator of training, and that I feel like that was like kind of my comfort zone. And I had done that with Walmart before. And so, and then really it transitioned quickly into speaking, and then kind of sharing my story and my journey and delivering some valuable nuggets of these are some key takeaways, which then turned into keynote speaking. So I've spoken for some really great kind of big places. So the Missouri Department of Transportation, I was their keynote speaker for their HR conference. I did a Women in Leadership conference for Walmart. I was their keynote speaker. They all bought books, so it's been a lot of fun. I'm starting to book speaking. I have some things in the work for this fall. So we're looking, I'm looking to do a lot more speaking events as we go into the fall and winter, and then again in spring, and just continue on that journey. There is something magical about getting to share your story and teach something at the same time that I'd never seen before.
The speaking, just to say, hey, I want to be a speaker, right? You can't just say, I'm a speaker and I want to speak at your event. And they're like, yeah, right. Right. So talk about that journey of deciding to be a speaker and finding somebody that trusts that you are going to deliver something that will resonate with the audience. Talk about a little bit about that journey. What is that like? How long does that take?
Yeah, I mean, of course, a journey is like anything else for everybody. It's a little bit different. But I can tell you, when you talk about trust, so the very first, I had done that Family Business Forum, and I was really excited about how it went. I was talking to someone, and they said, we need a keynote speaker for this event. It was a smallish event for a small community place. But he had never heard me speak. He was not there. And he trusted not only that I was going to show up, but that from what he had heard from me and a few other people, that it was worth having me and to be their keynote. Now, they didn't pay me either, right? Like, fair enough, right? But I was so happy to be there. And so there was a lot of trust that went around both ways, right? Like, if I wouldn't have been any good, then like that would have been bad for his event. And, and it went great. I realized quickly I didn't ask enough questions. So I thought it was going to be an audience of adults. I thought it was the parents of this group. Well, it was teenage girls, 12 to 18, and some parents, but lots of girls. So like 50 teenage girls and probably 20 parents. So my audience, and in the very beginning of my keynote, I told you I'm all about goal setting, right? And how like my first goal in life was to make it past 15 without getting pregnant was like how I started it. And I had practiced it, starting it like that, right? So I walk out and it's all these young girls, right? And so, I learned, you learn along the way, right? Like I learned I didn't ask enough questions. I learned, several things, but it definitely resonated with them. It got their attention. For an entire 55 minutes, I kept the entire audience of teenage girls engaged. I mean, I thought that was a win.
That is a big win.
I had a mom and her daughter come up afterwards, and they were both like in tears, like thanking me for sharing my story. I had several people that were in tears. So, I think there's a trust between the relationship between you and someone else. I think there's a weird trust thing that happens inside yourself, though. Like, you have to trust that when you get up there on stage, you're actually going to speak words.
Well, we're laughing, but it's true.
But it's so true. Like, you have to trust that you are actually going to spit some words out of your mouth. They are going to make sense. Hopefully, they are going to come out in some similar fashion to what you practiced or hoped they would. But yeah, I feel like there's a little trust thing that happens inside of me every time still. The last one I did for the HR conference, I mean, if I would have done it exactly like I practiced and exactly on paper, I knew it was going to be great. Like, I knew it was going to be great and powerful and really magical. But I was like, oh my God, on the way, about 2 hours before, I was like, what are you doing? And then I was like, okay, it's going to be fine. And I had to drive 4 hours to go to it. So I drove 4 hours and I talked a very good friend into coming with me and recording it. Because that's the other thing. I've done all these great events and like not recorded very many of them. So, right? No proof. And these days, if it's not on social media, it did not happen. Right. Yeah. So anyways, so she got to hear me, practice or whatever, the entire drive. Right. And then she actually got to see me present it, which I know I moved some stuff around or like during the actual presentation. And some things I got to listen to a few people talk beforehand. So I changed a few things to relate to people as we went through or whatever it was. Anyway, she goes, I really wanted to follow it and like see if you were following her. She goes, but it was I was just listening. Like, it was so good. I'd never heard you share your story like that, Anyways, it went really well. All the HR people, the gal who booked me actually came up after and she's like, that was exactly what we needed. And I was like, oh, thank God. I know. I now that I know to ask more questions, I did have a couple of themes that I had went through their HR folks with beforehand and checked what resonated. I actually even asked them if I could meet with a couple of the folks that were going to be there and just have a conversation and get a feel. I mean, kind of so I got to have a call with a couple of them. And I think just to really make sure that I could and did and would actually relate to the audience. I I have no idea if every speaker does that. I have no idea if you're even supposed to do that. I still don't know right now to this day. But I was super glad I did. And it absolutely was a benefit.
Yeah. So you're describing connection.
Yeah.
You're describing connection, which is part of building trust. You got to be able to connect with someone in order for that trust to build. So I'm hearing connection and clarity, right? Yeah. It was clear, the message resonated, and that's the theme that I'm hearing. And your success with speaking is connection.
Yeah.
So let's kind of dip into that a little bit. When you're, and I want to try to, in the life of Windy, as she's giving the presentation or the speech, when you're saying these things and giving the information out to them, I'm trying to think the best way to ask this. What do you feel? I guess that's the best way to ask it. What do you feel when you're doing that?
So I didn't know how you were going to ask that question, but I actually knew exactly what you were trying to ask as you were trying to go through it. But I think some of this is because I grew up with Walmart and I grew up in the stores. And so even as a store manager, I was like, what can I do for them? Like, what can I do for that next associate in front of me? What can I do for that next customer? Like, what can I do that's going to add value to their day, to their problem, to their, add a solution? And I remember my son even asked me once, he was probably about 4, and he's like, Mom, are you the boss of all these people? And I said, oh, honey, all these people are the boss of me. And I even in my speaking, I try to do that. Not just try, but like, I'm like, what can I give to them that is going to be meaningful, that they can go do something with after that? Whether it's a piece of myself, a piece of my story, whether it's a trick that I learned, a tip or whatever. But I always go into it saying, I am not here for me. I'm here for them. And what can I give them? What can I make sure that they walk away with something that made this moment matter?
It's interesting you say that, because one of the most impactful explanations I've heard from a accomplished speaker, his name is David Horsager.
Okay, so David Horsager. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, he has written, I should know this, 4 books or maybe 5 books based on trust, right? So he has a company called Trust Edge. And part of their certification is I'm a Trust Edge partner. So you go through a certification process in order to be able to speak about trust, learn about trust, and help people with trust.
I love that.
Yeah. So David Horsager was telling, I can't remember if he was telling me directly or if he was telling us as a group. I can't remember that. I should know that.
It's okay.
But David said the best advice he got about speaking was from his wife. At his first big event, he was all nervous and sweaty and carrying on. And she was like, David, just love them. Just love them. And when you shared your story, I remember him saying that. And that's what you're describing, is giving them something. It's about compassion.
Yeah.
It's a story. So I thought we were talking about connection, and now we're talking about compassion in your speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that once that happens and I may be self-projecting, but when you're giving out information and you're trying to help and you're trying to serve, and then you see it resonate, when that comes back, then what does that do for you as to better help serve them? What is that like?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's more just like, okay, you're on the right path. Like, keep going, you're on the right path, keep going, like you can keep doing this. So I think it's more of a like that necessarily versus does for me, but like that's the momentum to continue to move forward.
So it's a form of confirmation?
Yeah. And like sometimes you do things and you're like, oh, I should not do that. Like, I am not good at that. Like, I feel like that about laundry, but well, or not, but you're like,
yeah,
that is not my jam. Like, I should not be doing that. And so, I didn't know like speaking was going to be something where I was like, oh, wow, no, like that was good. People afterwards, talk to me about the parts that mattered the most to them. I love listening. And then they share a whole story about their life and why that mattered or why it made it different. And so I think I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the right path. Like, and someone said to me once, I was going to speak and they're like, my theory is if I impact one person in the room, which I've heard that, and I'm not saying that's like a bad theory, but like, why do you only have to impact one? Like, I don't understand. Like, why can't everybody in the room be impacted? And there be one or two that wasn't. I mean, that's kind of my theory. Like, I'm going to love on you to your, how you said it, and you're going to love on me, and it's going to be great.
Why does that just one? That's
right.
Good.
Yeah. Anyway.
Connecting, compassion, clarity, the clarity of the message that's going out. So it wasn't clear, like, let's go back to that first one. It wasn't clear who the audience was going to be, but it was clear that you connected with that audience. Now, did you change any of your content, or did you, I'm not trying to stump you on this.
I didn't. So I didn't, partly because I literally was like on stage before I realized who the audience was, right? Because I was in the green room or whatever it was, right? Like, and I was literally like on stage before. So there wasn't really time to change. It was kind of a wish, a hope, and a prayer, whatever, right at that point. And I still started how I started. I mean, it worked out. It was great. It was fine. I did think about it, but I also think what I was sharing was very real life. And so, at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like as long as you don't like use bad language or, what I'm saying, I mean, if it wouldn't have worked, then, I would have done something different. But,
So authenticity.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming. It was authentic moment.
Yeah. And it was my first keynote. So the folks who set it up said, we want to hear your story. Like I'd had a conversation with them before. They said, we want to hear your story. Like, that's what we want you to tell. And so I had written this keynote that was around my story. What I didn't know, I wasn't a speaker necessarily. I was more of a facilitator of training, right? Which there's a big difference between a keynote speaker and a facilitator of training. Let me just tell you that. In my opinion, facilitating is much easier. But so I hadn't ever written a keynote. And so I wrote up my story. I had interesting parts. I thought I had this paper that actually had little pictures on it, like to keep me on track, right? But turns out, as I started learning from other keynote speakers and talking to them, I mean, that is what their keynote, their keynotes have their personal story intertwined. And so now I've learned how to, sometimes it's the same parts of the story, but sometimes I put in different ones depending on what life experiences I'm trying to speak to. Right. So when I was speaking in the HR conference, I put a little more from my Walmart career background, right, that pertained to HR that mattered to them. And so I guess it kind of depends. Like when I was doing the leadership conference, it was a lot more from earlier in my career because that's when I made the most mistakes as a leader, right? That's when I messed up a whole lot of stuff as a leader. So, but I didn't know, it was kind of magical because I didn't know when I wrote that first keynote and was sharing my story that was going to be the bulk of it, the linchpin, the why it mattered, the why people could relate. I didn't really even understand that yet.
Wow. I'm sure that drive home was something.
Yeah. So.
All right. I want to pivot just a little bit because I know that Jane Wick exists.
Okay.
So can we go down that path?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about what Jane Wick is and who it serves.
Okay, so Jane Wick is a company for women's gun range bags. So not concealed carry, but range bags for her to go to the range and learn and train and learn how to use her gun. We have our very first bag that just came out. We actually just got our first production shipment in. And really it started, I haven't been a shooter for a long time. So just the last couple of years, it was a couple of years ago, I went with my son and my husband. We got training. We went and learned how to shoot. They got really good really fast. And I needed a little more time, space and time. I wanted to go with the trainer without my son and my husband. I put all my stuff on the bag. I went to pack it. I realized my husband's bag was massive. And I got online to buy a bag and I realized all the bags on the market for a woman to go to the range were camo pink, Barbie pink, or Barbie purple. And seriously, I was like, I am not, like, you've got to be kidding me. But I was like, okay, maybe I just don't know any better. I'm not really in the shooting world. Like, I shoot with like 20 other women once a month. A lot of them were complaining about the bags. No one was carrying a Barbie pink or camo pink bag. Not a single one of them. And I was like, okay, we have got to do better. Like, we have got to do better for women. And 42% of gun owners in America are women. Mm-hmm. And in the last 2 years, 3.5 million women have bought a gun here in the US. And she spent $800 on her gun and $400 on accessories. And we don't have a nice bag for her to go train. Like, I was like, this cannot be true. So I set on a mission. I was going to design a bag. I had no idea what I was doing. Oh, we can talk about some trust along the way on this, Alan. Woo-wee. Yeah. Try trusting a company that's going to help you with another company that's in another country, and then another company in another country, and then we're going to send you a bag. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And everything takes about 5 times longer than it should. Anyways, it's gorgeous brown leather. It's beautiful. All the guys that see it say that they would absolutely use it, even though it says Jane Wick on it. But yes, I feel like that's still a trust journey. Like, I had them flown here. I had the first 25 bags to fill the first set of orders flown here. 5-day air. It took 4.5 weeks. And I still believed at 4 weeks before the 4.5 that they were coming. Not sure why. Had no confirmation number. They couldn't find them in customs, but I still trusted that they were going to get here.
So this level of trust is kind of riding around character, right?
I mean, yes.
There's a lot of faith that somebody's actually going to do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had to put a lot of faith in other people that own other companies. So not even people that work for me. So it's not like I pay them directly and they just do what I tell them. It's like they all own their own companies. And so I'm business partners with them, but you know, they could decide not to. They don't work for me. I can't fire them. I mean, right. You know, but so, yeah.
So you had to extend the trust first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then it had to reciprocate back, but you put it all out there.
Yeah. Well, and I would tell you there's even times where I feel like even my production company, they trust me first on stuff. They're like, oh, we just already paid $3,000 to get the boxes made or whatever it was. So you are sending us a check, right? And I'm like, yes, I am right now. Like, well, I'm going to do, you know, so I think it's definitely gone both ways. But, you know, and they had to have a little trust in the fact that I would actually bring them an order because we spent the first 1.5 years in design phase, basically. So they went through 1.5 years with me in design phase. Yeah. You know, they don't really make money until I actually order production.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a lot of trust. Some people may say faith, but I'm going to say trust.
Yeah.
That you had to trust them. They had to trust you as well.
Right.
So in all of this, with the end goal of trying to fill a need that you saw that was out there. I mean, that's the big game that we're talking about here. This is a population that you're trying to help serve.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so And it's really important to me. It's really important to me that women have a beautiful, gorgeous bag that they can take and go train. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why is I meet women all the time because they know I go shooting. Women are open to talking to me about it every day that are like, you know, my husband bought me this gun. My son bought me this gun. My, you know, whoever the he is in her life, you know, but she's afraid of it. She doesn't like to touch it. He wants her to carry it in the car, carry it in her purse, or whatever that looks like. But she's still scared of it, you know? And even I go shooting all the time and I still acclimate every single time I go shooting, right? Like it's, you know, if you don't like shooting and you don't like guns, then this is not for you, right? Which is, I am not saying it should be for you if you don't like it, but if you do like them and you're interested and you do maybe want to carry that gun that he got you, but you're still unsure, to have a bag that you can go to the range and train yourself is truly a game changer. And I'll tell you, even on the inside of the bag, like the pockets are labeled, they tell you what goes in them. And I joke about if you fill all 5 of those pockets that have a label, you'll have everything you need. Now you can put all the extras in because there's 100 extra cool pockets on this thing, but you'll have everything you need if it's labeled, which that's another big confidence builder. Like I can go to the range and know I have everything I need. That's just something that we haven't traditionally had as women in the gun industry.
You know, to take that one step further, the guy's version of it, those pockets aren't labeled.
No.
There may be one out there that's labeled, but I haven't found one. Whether it's shotgun, rifle, or pistol, you know because of your experience that, okay, this goes in that pocket.
That's the thing, that a lot of shooting habits have been experience-based. Like your, you know, ancestors taught you, whatever that looks like, you know, your uncle, your aunt, your grandparents, your parent, you know, whatever it is. And, you know, there's a lot of, especially women, but not just women. I mean, men too. I would say, I thought our customer base was going to be like 45 to 65-year-old female. It starts at 25. All the surveys we've done, she starts being interested in shooting at 25 years old. And at $60,000 a year, she's making room in her budget to go shooting, which those were shocking numbers for us to see. And I would tell you, not only did I see them on paper, but I literally meet women that fit absolutely in that every single week. And so, you know, it's just, and she's not necessarily wanting to go hunting or necessarily interested in hunting. Sometimes it's really more of a self-care thing. She just wants to feel like a badass. She wants to know how to use a gun. She wants to know what to do with it. You know, she wants to know that if she had to, for some reason, that she was somewhere where something crazy happened and she had the opportunity to impact it, she would know what to do. I really think that's part of what sits in the back of her mind.
Yeah. One of the things that I do is I'm a CrossFit coach, and there was a athlete in my class that she was in her early 40s or maybe late 30s. And she, at the end of one grueling workout, she's laying on the floor and she's sweating, and I think it's August or something. I remember it was hot. And I said, "How you doing? You okay?" And she said, "I don't know what I'm training for, but I hope it never happens." Right. And what you're describing is with them that they're training to be ready if it happens. They hope it never happens.
Right.
But you can't be prepared unless you train.
Right.
Yeah. So that's, as you told that story, I'm like, ooh, I remember a situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
As you go through let's just call them life experiences, because you've got Jane Wick and you put the Family Business Summit. That's a whole different thing in itself. Yeah. You've got the speaking. You've got all these things, your experience with Walmart. You're serving a lot of people in a lot of ways, but the common thing that I'm hearing a bunch through all of this is your connection with others and how to serve others.
Yeah, I think that's really important to me. I think even when I was in the stores, that was important to me. And then when I came to the corporate office, even stuff we'd roll out from the office, I was like, how is this impacting the people in the store? Like, that's important to me. And so I feel like growing up with Walmart did like ingrain that into me. And then my life outside of Walmart, when I started my consulting company, which is kind of where all that came from, the speaking and the book and the, even getting to start Jane Wick, Pivotal Solutions, the first thing I did, I started it after COVID. And so when I went out in the world after COVID, it was all different people than the people that were before COVID. And I had owned another company and I had sold it by then. And so my first 3 months of just being out in the world, I made a meeting with every single person that would meet with me. And I called it my get to know my community. And I you would have thought I was a financial planner. No offense, but if you're a great financial planner, there's the whole Grantham theory and 25 meetings a week and all the things. I literally had 25 meetings a week. The entire hour, I would say with everyone, my goal was to get to know more about them than I told them about me. That was my goal. I want to know how many kids they had. I want to know where they were from. I want to know about their car, their house, their dogs, whatever it was that they felt like they wanted to share. And I literally would just sit with them for an hour and just, let them tell me whatever it was they wanted. But I just wanted to get to know my community. And I will tell you, I feel like there was connections I made in that first 60 days of doing that still, 5 years later now are still super impactful and supporting my business, right? So the other day I got the first production of bags. I just told you that. Well, it didn't come with the boxes. The 500 boxes that I spent a fortune on and all this time designing, they're still in another country. So now I have the 25 bags to fill the first, but I don't have boxes. I literally call up the girl who does design work for me. And I'm like, here's what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I need a box. Well, first I call a gentleman who I got to tour his shop and he made boxes here locally. He doesn't have that shop, but he works for another box company. He met with me the same day, sent me a version of a box design that same day I called my girl who did design work. She literally designed the box that same day. I didn't ask them to do anything that day. I just said, whenever you have time, can I get on your schedule? What can I... By the next day, 24 hours, we had an entire gorgeous box design that was in production. That is wow. More than just, that is building a strong community that really helps each other out and takes care of them. And the girl that did the design work, it took her another 3 days to even get me the invoice, right? So I could pay her for the worksheet, right? But she's like, I happen to have time right now. And, you do stuff for me and I'm going to do this for you. Right.
Wow.
And I'm not talking for free. I paid for the boxes and I paid for the design work, right? And they pay me when I do business consulting for them, but it really matters.
It does matter. Yeah. And I'd hate to sound like we're beating the dead horse, but connection. That's the one thing that keeps coming back up is connecting with others and helping serve others. And it's connection and compassion.
Yeah.
All right. So the people that are listening to this or watching, hopefully.
Okay. Are watching.
Watching.
Right. Because this is a really nice blazer. I hope they're watching.
we color coordinate.
Yeah, we're color coordinated. So hopefully you get to see this on camera. Yeah.
If they want to find out more about whether it's Jane Wick, Pivotal Solutions, or, hey, I'm aspirations to be a speaker, I need some help. If they're wanting to reach out to you some way, what's the best way to track you down?
Yeah. So an email is by far the best. Partly because I have all these cool AI tools and you can actually get on my calendar with an email super fast, faster than I can even have a conversation with you or send 5 text messages back and forth. But Windy at pivotalsolutions.co or Windy at janewick.co. Those are both on my website. So you can go to janewick.com or pivotalsolutions.co. and get a hold of me through any of those. Or, of course, through Alan and this fabulous podcast. You can get a hold of me through that too. But I have a ton of amazing people around me that support me and help me all the time. And I am happy to talk to someone if they want help, if they need help, if they want to. I will spend an hour with anyone for free. Like I said, I will spend an hour with anyone for free, So yeah, I'm happy to pay it forward as much as I can.
Yeah. That's serving others. I always make fun of when people ask me, what do you charge for your service or whatever? I'm like, well, the what is free. The how I charge for, but the what's are free. That's just what you were saying. I can tell you all you need to know. Right. So the what, reach out to her.
Yes.
Well, thank you again. I know this is your second time, and I really didn't expect you to say yes again. But I am so glad that you did, because your story has evolved quite a bit. And that was a year and a half ago or so that we did that, maybe 2.
Yeah, Jane Wick was just an idea phase.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even know if we talked about it. But,
we did.
Okay, a little bit. Yeah.
But it was still in the idea phase.
Yeah.
We were there talking about pivotal solutions.
Yes.
And that's where we went from there. But so fantastic. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I always love it.
You bet.